Hi, it's Dee Morris. Welcome. Today's video is surrounding the narcissistic Hoover and how the case of the ringworm is a great metaphor for the narcissistic Hoover. In my strong personal opinion, here's why. You know, the ringworm, the rash that, comes back, right? That often comes back. Now, as a kid, in elementary school, I had a case of the ringworm, and some of you out there listening may have had two, or a sibling, or a friend, or other family member who had a case of it. Even as adults, we can have cases of ringworm. A lot of people who work out, go to the gym, or other public places where they come in contact with it, perhaps even in certain industries, they get a case of it. Now, with the ringworm, a great rule of thumb is to nip it in the bud right away. So let's use that in the case of narcissistic hoovering. You know, you have to nip it in the bud right away. If a narcissist hoovers, you gotta like cut it off. Stay no contact. Shut it down. If you have to let them know that it's over, do not contact you again, whatever you have to do to make it clear. Or the easy way is to just basically ignore them, or if you're able to, change your number. And in even extreme cases, you may have to change your job, or perhaps even where you're staying or living if it's a family member or a neighbor or such that's a malignant narcissist. Now, that's just one aspect of the narcissist being, comparable to the ringworm, is that you got to nip it in the bud right away. Why? Because ringworm is contagious, highly contagious, and it spreads. And it doesn't just spread from person to person, it also spreads within your body because it moves around from within. Okay, so if you don't catch it on time and it's like, let's say on your hand or leg or somewhere in your body, it can move up to your head or your scalp. And once it gets there, that's when you're in bigger trouble. Okay, that's when it turns into a monster. That's when it grows, because the ringworm, it flourishes on the scalp. If you've had the ringworm on the scalp or had a kid with ringworm on the scalp, you know that that's some tough situation to get rid of, right? It even comes down to having to shave your hair off, or shave your head if you had a full head of hair. Can be devastating. But that's why you got to nip it in the bud right away, especially if it's not on the scalp or is nearing the scalp. You got to get rid of it, because if it gets to the scalp, which eventually it will if it's in your system, it's going to be a worse situation. It just gets worse. Just like the narcissist, every time you let them back in your life after a Hoover, if they're successful at a Hoover, trying to get back into your life or trying to affect you psychologically, financially, or some other way, the situation only escalates. It only gets worse. They hate you more. They resent you more. They want to damage your life, destroy whatever is left of your sanity, or anything that looks positive, anything that makes you smile, any hope that you have, or joy. If they didn't finish you off the first time, they will keep coming back to do so. And they're also coming back, to suck up and refuel from whatever you may have regained as far as self-esteem and other positivity in your life since they had left, right? So if you had become stable, or something that's positive has happened to you, they want a part of that. They want a piece of that. They can refuel definitely on that. Okay. And so that's when they come back, that's the reason they're coming back. And they do come back with a fury. Okay, especially if they're able to witness you, they're following you, stalking you, and seeing that you're either improving, becoming healthy, getting well, or just simply moving on with your life away from them and their destruction. So that's two aspects right there, you know. The narcissist only intensifies, only escalates, just like the ringworm, only gets worse if it moves and migrates through your body and gets to your scalp. Um, you got to nip it in the bud right away. That's how you can prevent that from happening. And also, I guess we can say thirdly here, like the ringworm, a narcissist can be relentless. So, the ringworm, it comes back. If you don't treat it right, it comes back. It comes back. It comes back. It doesn't just go away on its own. It's not going to be like, oh, I'm tired of you. Bye-bye. Move on to the next. No. You might think you have gotten rid of the ringworm. Let's say, for instance, you treated a spot that had ringworm, right? With a cream or some other type of solution, whether home remedy or from the doctor. Okay, when you look in a week later, in a week's time, I should say, or a month later, even 6 months later, it's back, perhaps in a different spot. It may be on your face, it may come back on your foot. Nobody knows where it's going to pop up. The ringworm just pops up. You thought you got rid of it, but you just got rid of, a particular situation. But it's actually internal. It's actually within your system, and you cannot get away from that. So just like the ringworm, a narcissist will hoover you. It would come back, and just like the ringworm, the narcissist comes back with tactics. They come back with tools, and so when the narcissist hoovers you, you don't know when they're going to hoover you. You don't know how or what tactics or tools they're going to use to hoover you. Um, for instance, they can hoover you within a few days. They may hoover you within a few years or a few decades. You don't know when they're going to re-hoover you, depending on the narcissist and where they are on the scale of narcissistic abuse or NPD. Okay, cluster B personalities. Now, just like the ringworm, a narcissist may use certain tactics to come back. The ringworm would come back on your body in vulnerable areas, vulnerable spots. Okay, so the narcissist will look for some area of your life that you may be vulnerable, and they would try to hoover you that way. That often happens. Let's say you may be financially strapped or something. They may offer you, a loan or some money, pretending not to expect a return or that you can keep it, but that's how they're getting their claws back into your life, into your esteem, into your soul. And the only way to treat this is by treating it from within. Just like the ringworm, you cannot get rid of the ringworm especially if it's on the scalp, without treating it from the inside out. Some people get cases of ringworm, they may be able to spot treat it on the hand or somewhere else. But if it's a highly resistant, I guess you can say, form of ringworm, or persistent, and it gets all the way to the scalp, you have to treat it from the inside out. And that's how you also have to treat these hoovers of narcissism, etc. You have to treat it from the inside out. You do this by avoiding looking for external sources of validation, of acceptance, of love from the outside. You have to first fill up your core, fill up yourself and your own self-esteem by loving yourself. I know it sounds cliche, but by loving yourself just means that you accept who you are. You accept the reality of who you are. You accept that you can make choices in your life, no matter how small, no matter how large, to make a difference in your life and in your future. You may not see a big change today. You may not see a big change in a year, but the small micro changes ends up being something great at the end of the day. Ultimately, whether it's 3 to 5 years from now, or even 10, 20 years from now, you can make that choice starting this moment. But you have to treat how you respond to narcissists and their hoovers from within, from filling yourself up, making yourself whole, so someone else is not required to complete you, or you don't become dependent or codependent on some other entity like the narcissists, who are attracted to your vulnerabilities, um, that gaps that may exist in your life or your esteem. But as we know, narcissists are also attracted to people with high self-esteem, with things that the narcissist can gain from that person. There's always something the narcissist is looking to gain from you or from someone else, but somehow you may have missed a red flag or two or more, and they were able to get in. Perhaps you're not aware of narcissism, or you may need to become more knowledgeable about their tools and tactics, and the different levels of narcissism, because some narcissists might be blatantly obvious that, hey, something's completely wrong with this person, and then some are very subtle, very hard to detect, and seemingly very everyday, down to earth, grounded, and normal. Many of them appear to be that way. So either way, whether it's something vulnerable in your life, or you're going through a particular period of your life, or even if you're, at a great place in your life, the narcissist finds a way to get in, whether it's through something they can gain or something they feel like you need, but eventually turns into their gain. By the time they try to stomp out your fire, your passion, your positivity, they still gain because they just want someone just beneath their feet. So either way they gain. But I think the medicine for, what's it called, the ringworm, is called something like gallivantin, or um, gabapentin, or something like that. I'll have to double check, but I know it definitely starts with a G, and that's usually the liquid form that a doctor would prescribe. At least I know that's what they prescribe to kids. I'm not sure if they prescribe adult pills to adults, or pills to adults, or another form of the medication. But the scalp treatment for ringworm is definitely from within. You can try to treat it from without or externally. It won't work. It just prolongs and aggravates the situation. Similarly with narcissism, treat it from within and not without, to completely uproot it, to completely repel a narcissist, to completely repel a ringworm, right? So that's the ways narcissists and ringworms are so similar and such great analogies for each other. Or how do we say, metaphorically speaking, you got to nip both of them in the bud right away, so it doesn't, get to the scalp or get embedded within you to affect your self-esteem. You got to nip it in the bud right away. You got to treat it from within in order to repel the fungus or the condition, just like you treat yourself from within. Fill yourself up, have abundance of yourself, so that you don't have voids and spaces and gaps for narcissists to infiltrate your life. And when the narcissist hoovers, just like the ringworm, you never know when they're going to show up, and you don't know how, where, what tools, tactics, manipulations they're going to use. Just like the ringworm, it just pops up wherever it wants to, especially if you hadn't gotten rid of it the first time, or like I said, take the medicine to keep it at bay or to repel it. So I don't know, felt like that would be helpful to you today. Hopefully it was. It definitely gave me a different perspective on it. when it came to me, it certainly felt like an epiphany. But hey, I just shared it with you. Hopefully, you go share with others that you feel like it can help. All right, thanks for being here. Let me share that. Until the next video, take care of yourselves and yours. Bye.